Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Over My Dead Pod. I'm your host today, Holly Lamoureux.
This is Kate Carter.
And I'm Kylie Colwell.
I'd just like to issue a huge apology to all of our listeners. I've been MIA for about 2 weeks. I would like to recall my endorsement of Red Bull Vanilla Berry energy drinks. They did, in fact, give me a kidney stone.
I'm pretty sure you endorsed them the last episode you recorded as well. So it
Yeah.
was literally like you recorded that episode and then a few days later you got a kidney stone and it's 100% because you don't drink water.
It is. I don't really think it's their fault. I don't think they're meant to be drank as water. I think that that's might be where I'm running into the problem. It might be a user error, but I would just like to say just don't just,
Moderation.
everything in moderation. I'm just going to jump right in. So, in April 2016, in Rockland County, New York, just north of New York City along the Hudson River, something deeply unusual began to unfold. Late one afternoon, a car salesman named Mark Kinsey was approached by a former customer. At first, it didn't seem out of the ordinary, but the reason that the customer came back would quickly turn into something far more serious than anything that Mark Kinsey had encountered in his 16 years on the job. The customer was a woman who told Mark Kinsey that she was planning to have her boyfriend's wife killed. So Markinzi's like obviously completely caught off guard. This is just like a former client of his or customer. He's a car salesman. Like what the heck? He later described the moment as like surreal. His mind's going blank. The only thing he could ask was why. But she didn't give him a clear answer. She just revealed pieces of information slowly. And what made it even more unsettling was nothing about her suggested this kind of intent. By his account, she didn't seem like someone who would ever try to like hire a hitman. Looking back, Mackenzie believed the situation may have started with a misunderstanding between the two. During a previous interaction, the woman had accused her ex-husband of harming their children. So, like in a response, Mackenzie was like trying to be helpful, and he told her that if she ever needed assistance, he knew people who could help. And he was meaning like law enforcement, like or like some contacts that she could get a hold of, like some networking situations.
Hitman.
Yeah, and so she's interpreting that as like we'll take him out kind of thing.
Mhm.
So, yeah, so back then she said nothing about her ex-husband like wanting to be a target of this hitman. She didn't say anything, but she's coming back now to him at this point, and he's like, okay, some things have been misconstrued here. At that point, Mark Kinsey became concerned that someone could be in imminent danger. So instead of like shutting the conversation down, he made like the split second decision to keep her talking using his like car salesman personality. He's like, he's leading her on. He's telling her, yeah, like tell me more, all the things. He's gaining information. He told her that while this wasn't something he personally handled, he might be able to connect her with people who could. He even went as far as describing these like supposed contacts as like highly skilled operatives, like black op type individuals. And she's like very interested. She's keeps it going. So as soon as she left, Mackenzie tried to contact one of his police officer friends, repeatedly called and texted trying to get through, but his friend was off duty and unavailable. So Mackenzie had agreed to meet her later that night. The second meeting took place at a gas station and was actually captured on surveillance footage later. This time, she came prepared. She handed him a Ziploc bag containing a photograph of the intended target along with a phone number. Up until that point, there may have been some questions about how serious she actually was, but now there's no doubt Mackenzie realizes this is just something far bigger than he expected. Eventually, this police officer friend returns the call, and Mackenzie explains everything and admitted he didn't know how to proceed. So I think Mackenzie was a little bit hesitant to contact detectives, but his friend was like, okay, how would you feel if in a few days you saw this woman on the news dead and knew that you didn't stop it? So Mackenzie contacted detectives in Ramapo, New York. I think that's how you say it. And when they first heard the story, they were skeptical. cases like this weren't something that they encountered often. As we've talked about before, like it's like a theory where like, oh, maybe it was a hitman. And it's usually never actually a hitman. Like this kind of stuff is like happens in movies, really. The detectives are like trying to figure out if this is like a real threat or if this is just something like something strange going on. They brought Mackenzie in and began asking him questions. And as he laid out what happened, it became clear that this wasn't just talk. The woman had actively tried to hire someone to kill another person. And this woman behind it all was identified as Kelly Gribeluk. As detectives began digging into her background, they found that she had previously been a part of the Orthodox Jewish community. She was divorced and she had 3 kids. She also had worked as a mortician, and at the time, she was trying to pursue modeling. So, like, big switch up from the mortician to the modeling. We don't really know how, whatever. But more importantly, she was not entirely unfamiliar to law enforcement. A detective had encountered Kelly before during a separate investigation involving alleged abuse allegations that she had made against her ex-husband. Based on that prior experience, the detectives knew that Kelly was not someone that they should take at face value. They didn't really trust her when she initially came to them with these concerns. I don't really know what led them to believe that she was being not credible, but for some reason they knew that she was just kind of like a red flag. Now, with a potential murder plot in motion, these concerns carried much more weight. And investigators still needed to answer the most urgent question of all: who was the woman Kelly wanted dead? That woman was Suzanne Bernstein. Suzanne was a mother of 3 living in the same community as Kelly. At that point, investigators still didn't fully understand why she had become the target. Detectives decided the only way to confirm how serious the threat was and to stop it was to catch Kelly in the act of planning the murder. So to do that, they needed Mackenzie. By then, he had already gained her trust, so investigators asked him to just kind of keep it going, continue playing the role of the middleman who could connect her to the hitman. And Mackenzie reluctantly agreed. So the next meeting was very carefully planned by investigators. They chose a Walmart parking lot directly across the street from the police station. It was a controlled environment with detectives positioned nearby and ready to move in if necessary. Mackenzie's car was wired with hidden cameras and microphones, and everything was going to be recorded. While they waited for the meeting to be set, investigators dug deeper into Kelly and her intended victim. Detectives realized that they already knew Susan Bernstein's husband because he was a doctor. He was actually a foot surgeon and kind of prominent in town, and several members of the department had actually been patients of his. So as they continued digging, they uncovered a critical piece of the puzzle. Ira Bernstein had been involved kind of on and off again in a relationship with Kelly. So it makes sense. We're tracking that. We kind of figured that there was some tie there. So according to Ira, his marriage to Susan had already begun unraveling when Kelly entered his life. He described their relationship as not particularly serious at first, but over time it became something more, as it usually does. At that time, Ira and Susan were living a lifestyle that, by his own account, had become financially unsustainable. Their home was massive, over 13,000 square feet, sitting on 14 acres, with tennis courts, a pool house, a private lake, boats, all the things. I guess the foot surgeon business is lucrative. So Ira owned around 20 rental properties. So I guess it's not just the foot surgeon thing. It's also he's an investor. Maintaining that kind of lifestyle came at a cost. Ira claimed his wife's spending had escalated significantly, with monthly credit card bills reaching around $40,000. I don't know. Actually, I think I could spend $40,000.
I wish I was her.
Yeah, a month. Vacations, luxury items, and constant expenses added to the strain of this marriage. And he admitted himself that it had become stressful and he had become resentful and he was lonely. So when Susan found out, instead of ending the marriage immediately, they attempted something unconventional. They agreed to an open marriage, allowing both of them to see other people. But that arrangement didn't go very well, as it hardly ever does. And eventually, Susan ended it and the two separated. During that time, Ira began dating multiple women, and that is when Kelly entered his life. They had previously met when Kelly had been his patient years earlier, and she reaches out to him again, this time with a business opportunity involving orthotics. What started as a professional relationship quickly became not professional. Ira described Kelly as attractive, confident, and emotionally relatable. She had gone through a difficult divorce of her own, and the two bonded over their shared experiences. But the relationship didn't last, and after about 6 months, Ira decided to try to repair his marriage with Susan. He missed his children and didn't want to continue the cycle of legal battles and separation. He told Kelly he needed to see if reconciliation was possible. And according to him, she understood and she was okay with it. But now investigators were looking at a very different reality because just days after first approaching Mackenzie about hiring a hitman, Kelly was continuing to move forward with the plan to kill Susan. 3 days after the initial conversation, Mackenzie contacted detectives. Kelly had agreed to meet again. Within a few minutes, a team of officers mobilized and positioned themselves around the Walmart parking lot. Multiple vehicles were placed strategically nearby, and Mackenzie waited inside of his car. When Kelly arrived, she got out, and then, exactly as investigators had hoped, she got into the vehicle and began talking. At first, the conversation was casual, but it didn't take long for the discussion to turn. Kelly made it clear she didn't want anything obvious, no robbery, no shooting, nothing that would immediately point to foul play. Instead, she wanted it to look like an accident. Mackenzie played along, telling her that the people he worked with could handle it, but they would need more details. She asked about Susan's car. Kelly confirmed it's a black Mercedes. She also explained that Susan didn't work and spent much of her time shopping and spending money. Kelly initially brought up the price herself. She suggested $200,000 for the job, and Mackenzie didn't push back. He accepted the number and continued the conversation moving forward. This meeting would be the first of a series of conversations, each one bringing detectives closer to understanding just how far Kelly was willing to go. The first recorded meeting was a strong start, but it wasn't enough to make an arrest. At that point, no money had been exchanged, and legally, investigators needed more to make an arrest. They needed clear evidence, so the conversations kept going. Poor Mackenzie is fully committed to his role, and each time he met with Kelly, his car was wired with cameras and microphones. And before every meeting, he would link up with detectives to make sure that everything was functioning properly.
This is like Mackenzie's full-time job now.
Yes, he's no longer a car salesman, he's an actor.
I hope they pay him.
Yeah, I hope they do too. I don't know if they do though. The man is doing the Lord's work here. The next meeting takes place at a CVS parking lot, and detectives are like rotating locations to make the setup look more realistic. Kelly arrives, she gets out of her car, and this time investigators had clear instructions for Mackenzie. Don't lead her, don't suggest anything, let her talk and follow her direction. She then starts offering details that made it clear she was thinking ahead. She described Susan's upcoming plans, where she would be, when she would be out, what her routine looked like, and it gave the impression that she had been watching her closely. At one point, Kelly revealed that Susan knew about her relationship with Ira. And according to Kelly, Susan had even been texting her, sending insults and accusations, calling her names, and Kelly framed it as harassing, presenting herself as the one being attacked. Initially, Kelly had thrown out the $200,000 figure, and then she starts like negotiating it down, landing at $100,000, and Mackenzie just going along with it, doesn't resist. But he did push for a deposit. And I think the reasoning here that he would press for a deposit is just like legally, if the money was exchanged, it would initiate the investigators being able to arrest her. Like there has been an actionable step towards a murder.
100%. There has to be some type of payment exchanged.
I don't know the legalities of that, but I know that that's a thing. So Kelly agrees. But at the next meeting, she shows up empty-handed. Instead of bringing money, she asked something that caught detectives off guard. Whether the deposit would be refundable if the job didn't happen, which was a strange question, but any amount of money would be enough. What mattered was getting her to commit and take the concrete step that would solidify the case against her. Behind the scenes, detectives were becoming increasingly concerned that Kelly wasn't acting alone. Throughout the conversation, she keeps referring to like we and like not herself. She's referencing someone else all the time, and she would say that she needed to quote check with him or that he had concerns. So it's clear that there's another person involved, someone who seemed to have influence over this entire plan, especially when it came to the money. Kelly, however, was the one doing all the talking, and she was the point person, the one actively trying to make it happen. Investigators eventually placed a wiretap on Kelly's phone, and by that point, they pretty much had what they needed to press charges against her. But now there's like the second person. So they're trying to gather some more information because we think there's a second person that could be implicated in this crime. And as they dug deeper, they discovered something even more alarming. Kelly had approached multiple people before Mackenzie, trying to find someone willing to carry out the murder. She had asked at least 2 or 3 other people, people from her past, some acquaintances, even like some kind of person connected to her nanny, like if they would do this hit. And every single one of them refused. And they probably just thought it was like not real or like a joke. So at this point, the focus has shifted to identifying the other person involved. So they had Mackenzie, poor guy, start pushing for more meetings, and eventually it worked. A few days into the investigation, Kelly arrived for another meeting, but this time she wasn't alone. A man pulled into the parking lot, and detectives recognized him immediately. It was Dr. Ira Bernstein, the same man whose wife was being targeted, the same man several detectives knew personally. Suddenly, the case became even more complicated. Ira and Kelly get into the car, and Ira appears nervous, particularly about the messages Kelly had been sending through Facebook. He was worried about whether those communications could be traced. I think they're communicating like via Facebook when they meet up. Thinking on his feet, Mackenzie reassured him that those messages can't be traced or can't be tracked in the same way that calls or texts can. Ira starts opening up, and he starts talking about payment, timing, wanting the job done quickly. He also indicated that he would pay the remaining amount after the job was completed. Under New York law, they needed more. Any overt act that clearly moved forward the plan they would be able to arrest both him and Kelly. So at one point during this conversation, Ira steps back to like think. He says he just needs a moment and he leaves. He never comes back to the car, and a short time later, Kelly returns on her own. She tells Mackenzie that Ira had given her the money but was too scared to go through with it, at least for now. He wanted her to hold on to it while he thought a little bit longer. Mackenzie asked her again for the deposit. Mackenzie continued pressing Kelly, explaining that if he could show his people the cash in hand, it would signal that the plan was moving forward. He framed it as a necessary step, proof that the job was real. Kelly told him that Ira was struggling with the idea, not because of the crime itself, but because of what would come after. He was worried about his children, how he would raise them without a mother, etc. All valid things. But even after she described the hesitation, Kelly seemed focused on a different future entirely. Investigators believed that she had already envisioned a life where she and Ira could move on together without Susan, a life where consequences, especially for the children, didn't fully register. At one point, she talked about celebrating once it was all over, throwing parties, moving forward with their lives. So Mackenzie sets up another meeting, hoping Ira would show again. But he didn't. But Kelly does arrive with cash. She told Mackenzie that she had brought the deposit that they had discussed. But before handing it over, she circled back to the plan itself, how Susan would be killed. She was fixated on the idea of staging an accident, and then she revealed why. As a teenager, Kelly had been involved in a fatal car accident. She described hitting someone who ran in front of her vehicle. Afterwards, she was taken to the police station, her car was impounded, and she underwent testing, blood work, drug tests, everything. That experience had appeared to shape her thinking now. She asked if it could be done the same way. If someone could hit Susan, stay at the scene, and claim it was an accident, something that would appear unavoidable. Mackenzie reassured her that it'd be handled, that someone would stay at the scene, it would look like an accident, it would work. Kelly reached into her purse and she hands over $2,000 in cash. She confirmed the total agreed upon price was $100,000, with the remaining $98,000 to be paid after the job was complete. Until then, she said they were to stay on standby, waiting for the final go-ahead. At that point, they had enough to charge Kelly, but they still hold back because they don't have everything that they need on Ira. And just as they were getting close, the investigation took an unexpected turn. Kelly showed up to another meeting with a new request. There are now 2 additional targets that she wants to add to her grocery list of victims. She forgot some people, okay?
Same pay though.
I really love, like, I love listening to these, like, fake hits, you know? Like, these fake situations that the cops set up are literally my favorite because I'm thinking, you people are so stupid.
Does she think she's gonna get like a BOGO deal?
Yeah, I think she's trying to get a 2-for-1 special, a 3-for-1 special.
Buy two, get one free?
Buy 2, get 1 free. So now there's 2 additional targets. She told Mackenzie that Ira wanted 2 insurance investigators, quote, taken care of. Not killed, but beaten badly enough to send a message. According to her, they were investigating Ira and he wanted them eliminated. For detectives, it raised immediate concerns, obviously. This could interfere with the larger case, but it also could expose the operation. Kelly and Mackenzie agree on a price, $5,000. She hands over $2,500 in cash up front for this new job, and the rest of it was to come. Behind the scenes, detectives track down these 2 insurance investigators, and they meet with them in person and reveal everything, that there was an active plot to have them assaulted. But then detectives propose staging the attack of these insurance investigators. These detectives are creating like a Broadway show for themselves. So using makeup and like photography and like all these like photo shoot things, they create the appearance that investigators had been beaten. They take the pictures of it and they take the pictures. Police set up the scene in the parking lot near investigator's office, and undercover officers simulated the attack, carefully choreographing movements while photographers captured image from multiple angles. So while the cops are making these like fake images, Mackenzie is instructed to set up another meeting. He arrives with the photos hidden inside a newspaper, ready to present them to Kelly. So investigators tell him, like, no matter what happens, like, the photos can't leave his possession, because if Kelly took them to Ira, they risk losing control, like, of the whole situation. So the meeting's about to happen. Detectives are positioned, watching and waiting, but Kelly's running late. And when she finally arrives, she seems flustered, apologizing and claiming that she had been running around all night. Inside the car, Mackenzie's heart was pounding. He pulls out the photos of the staged images from the insurance investigators who were supposedly badly beaten. Kelly studies them closely, and from her reaction, it was clear she believed that they were real. And she appeared satisfied. Just as detectives anticipated, she immediately asked to take the photos to show Ira. But Mackenzie refused. He told her that it was better if she nor Ira had them, that keeping the photos out of their hands would protect everyone involved. He followed instructions, but then made a move of his own. He told Kelly to call Ira. On the phone, Mackenzie suggested meeting in person so Ira could see the photos himself. Ira agreed. He told them to come to his office parking lot. For investigators, this was the opportunity they had been waiting for. If they could get Ira back into the car on camera, they could finally lock in his involvement. When they arrived, Ira came out of his office in his scrubs and approached the car. This time, both he and Kelly were there. Before anything else, Mackenzie asked Kelly to step out. He wanted to speak to Ira alone. It was a strategic move. Investigators needed to understand whether Ira was truly involved or if Kelly had been driving everything with the insurance investigators. With Kelly out of the car, it became a direct one-on-one conversation. Inside, Ira immediately asked about the job. Mackenzie shows him the photos. At first, Ira seemed unsure. He questioned details. Why were the men dressed this way? Why did things look the way that they did? It was a moment that could have unraveled everything, but Mackenzie kept his composure. He redirected the conversation and reassured Ira that the job had been done correctly. He emphasized that the important thing was the outcome, that the investigators were no longer a problem. Eventually, Ira accepted. That alone was a major step forward, but investigators needed more. They coached Mackenzie to push the conversation further, bringing it back to Susan, to ask for a timeline, to get Ira to commit. So Mackenzie did. He pressed for an answer when the job would happen. Ira hesitated. He said he just needs more time to think. Mackenzie gives him a deadline. And then Ira said something that changed the entire case. He made it clear that the final decision would come from him, that if Kelly gave the go-ahead, it would be because he had approved it. For investigators, this was like a critical step. It confirmed that Ira wasn't just aware of the plan, he was directing it. Ira turned and pointed directly at the back seat towards the hidden camera. For a moment, everything hung in balance. Mackenzie reacted instantly. Without hesitation, he explained it's a piece of equipment for gaming headsets, something completely unrelated. And somehow it worked. Ira accepted the explanation and the moment passed. With the tension easing, the conversation returned to the plan. Ira agreed with the method, staging Susan's death as a car accident, something clean and something that would appear random. Then he left. But now, investigators still weren't across the finish line. They needed final confirmation, a clear, undeniable go-ahead. 5 days later, they got another chance. Kelly sets up a meeting in the Walmart parking lot. This time, everything would come down to a single answer. When she arrived, something was different. She refused to get in the car. Investigators immediately grew concerned. They're thinking maybe Ira or her has become suspicious if he warned her about the surveillance that he thought he saw last time. Without her in the vehicle, they're still able to hear the audio between Mackenzie and Kelly. And Kelly told him that there were, quote, red flags. Ira had started asking questions. Specifically, he had tried to verify whether the insurance investigators had actually been hospitalized after the supposed attack. Now he was worried that the entire situation might be a setup. For a moment, it seemed like everything might fall apart. But then Kelly gave an answer out loud. She holds up her phone, and on the screen was a single word, yes. That was it. That was the confirmation that investigators needed. Kelly and Ira were moving forward with the plan. They believed Susan would be killed within a few days. And at that point, the case was complete. Detectives move in, and they arrest Kelly in the parking lot. At the station, another carefully planned moment was waiting for her. She saw Mackenzie handcuffed, sitting in a holding room. Obviously, it was staged. Mackenzie's not actually arrested, but the goal was psychological, to make her believe that the entire operation had collapsed and that cooperation was her only option. After being read her rights, Kelly said very little. Detectives laid it out for her. They told her that they had everything, recording, conversations, evidence of the plan. Then they shifted focus. They wanted Ira. They needed Kelly to turn on him. Inside the police station, investigators shifted their focus. They made it clear to Kelly that this was no longer about anyone else. It was about her. They encouraged her to think about her situation, to understand the seriousness of where she was and what came next. But Kelly resisted. She struggled to answer the questions, saying that it was too overwhelming. So detectives changed their tactics. They revealed the truth about Mackenzie. He wasn't a middleman. He wasn't connected to any hitmen. He had been working with law enforcement the entire time. When they brought him into the room and confirmed it, Kelly was stunned. The realization hit all at once. Everything she believed about the situation had been wrong. But even then, she doesn't fully cooperate. Instead, she tries to shift the blame. She suggests that Mackenzie had pressured her into the whole situation, that he had pushed things forward. Investigators shut that down immediately. They made it clear that they had given her multiple opportunities to walk away and she hadn't taken them. When that didn't work, Kelly turned her attention to Susan. She described Susan as hostile and aggressive, claiming that she had been harassed, insulted, and even physically confronted. Ooh. According to Kelly, she had been afraid, portraying herself as someone reacting to fear rather than herself driving the situation. But even as she spoke, she avoided one key point. She refused to implicate Ira. Investigators pressed her, eventually about the money. They wanted to know, well, where did that come from? Was it her money? Would she have this $100,000? Or was it Ira? She hesitated and then admitted something else. She said that she loved him, and that was as far as she would go. A few hours later, detectives move in on Ira. He was pulled over near his home after returning from dinner in New York. When officers approached, he was visibly shaken. He reportedly said that his life was over, even expressing thoughts that suggested just how quickly everything had unraveled for him. Both Ira and Kelly were charged with conspiracy and solicitation to commit murder. While out on bail in 2017, Ira gave his version of events. He insisted that he never intended to go through with killing Susan. He described the recorded conversations as snapshots taken out of context, part of a much larger, more complicated situation. According to him, everything began falling apart during the breakdown of his marriage. He said that after agreeing to an open relationship, things quickly spiraled. He claimed Susan drained their bank accounts, took valuables, and left with their children. Shortly after, he was served with a restraining order and forced out of his home, given only minutes to pack before being escorted away. He described it as a turning point, what he called the moment their relationship became the marriage from hell. Ira denied allegations of abuse, portraying himself as nonviolent and passive. Eventually, he said Susan withdrew with a restraining order and attempted reconciliation. He agreed, but the conflict continued. That's when Kelly became more involved in his life. He described her as someone who stepped in during a chaotic time, helping him manage his business, his home, and even his day-to-day life. In many ways, she became everything he felt marriage was lacking. But according to Ira, the situation worsened again. He claims Susan discovered something that put him at risk: alleged insurance fraud. He admitted to overbilling for medical services and that Susan used that information to pressure him, threatening to expose him unless he agreed to financial terms heavily in her favor. He said he then felt trapped. He even signed a postnuptial agreement giving her significant control over their assets, later describing it as something he only did under extreme stress and pressure. In his version of events, Kelly was the one who initially sought out someone to carry out violence. He claimed that she had already met with Mackenzie multiple times before he even knew about it. He admittedly discussed the idea with her, but described those conversations as hypothetical and not real plans. He also claimed that once Mackenzie entered the picture, things escalated more quickly. According to Ira, Mackenzie had made it seem like backing out wasn't an option and that there were dangerous people involved who wouldn't tolerate hesitation. He even alleged that Mackenzie told a story about a previous client being killed for trying to walk away. Ira said at that point he felt trapped into something he didn't know how to escape. Still, he admitted to one major decision. He acknowledged that he agreed to have the insurance investigators beaten. He called it the worst mistake of his life. He said he had to choose to protect himself over innocent people, and that was something he would always carry with him. But as for the murder plot, he maintained that he never intended to go through with it. In fact, he claimed that part of him hoped that it was a sting operation, and that would force everything to stop. Kelly also spoke publicly while out on bail, and like Ira, she pointed to her past, specifically her first marriage. She had married young, and it was an arranged marriage, actually. And she had later described that it was deeply flawed from the start. Over time, the relationship deteriorated, but when she tried to leave with her children, a judge granted custody to her husband. She described that experience as traumatic and something that fundamentally changed how she viewed the system. Eventually, she divorced and reconnected with Ira. What began as a professional relationship quickly became romantic. She said they bonded over similar experiences, both coming out of difficult marriages. At one point, she even encouraged Ira to repair things with Susan, saying that she wanted the best for him, even if it meant stepping aside. She claimed she met Susan herself and that the interaction started off peacefully, even supportive, but that didn't last. According to Kelly, tensions escalated again. She described Susan as volatile and said she witnessed the toll it took on Ira: panic attacks, sleeplessness, and constant stress. And somewhere in that environment, the conversations began to shift. What if Susan wasn't there anymore? And that question, whether it was serious, hypothetical, or something in between, became the center of everything that followed. And ultimately, it led to both of them in a situation that neither of them could walk away from, or so they claimed. As investigators and prosecutors built their case, both Kelly and Ira began offering their own explanations of how everything unfolded. Kelly admitted that the idea of life without Susan had come up in conversations between her and Ira. At first, she framed it as something almost abstract, but at some point it became real, and they acted on it. Even when she considered reality that Susan had children and those children would lose their mother, it wasn't enough to stop her. She admitted that she was the one who initially went looking for someone to carry out the plan. According to her, Ira didn't explicitly tell her to stop, but he also didn't fully commit at first. She described him as indecisive and unsure what to do as the things escalated. Eventually, she said they both tried to back out, but by then she believed it was too late. She claimed Mackenzie had made it clear that there was no way out and that dangerous people were involved who wouldn't tolerate hesitation. She repeated the same story Ira had described about someone being killed for trying to walk away. And according to Kelly, that's when fear took over. Still, she insisted that in the end, they changed their minds. She pointed to the fact that full payment was never made, that Ira had means to pay, but never did. And when she was arrested, she said she had almost no money on her at all, trying to like insinuate that she never agreed to pay the full amount.
But wasn't the agreement that they would pay the other 98,000 after it had been done?
Yes.
So that doesn't even make sense there. Okay.
Yeah. Prosecutors believe that Ira was the driving force behind the plan, not Kelly. While she handled the communications and logistics, they argued that Ira was the one making the decisions, particularly when it came to money and timing. They also pointed out to what didn't happen. Neither Ira nor Kelly ever contacted the police. They never warned Susan, and they never took any concrete steps to stop the plan once it was in motion. They instead just continued. And one detail stood out that investigators discovered on the same day Kelly gave the final yes. She also made dinner reservations for Ira's entire office staff for the exact night Susan was supposed to be killed. The prosecutors, this just looks like an alibi. Another way for it to appear normal and to be seen in public while the plan was being carried out. As the case moved forward, prosecutors initially believed that they had leverage. Kelly had spent 5 months in jail while Ira had made bail within days. They thought she might turn on him. And eventually, she did agree to a deal. In exchange for testifying, she would receive a reduced sentence. After her release, instead of distancing herself from Ira, she moved back in with him. That raised concerns about how reliable she would be as a witness, and faced with uncertainty, prosecutors shifted the strategy. Rather than take the case to trial, they offered Ira a plea 15 years in prison with the possibility of parole after 5, and he accepts. He pleaded guilty to charges related to conspiracy and financial crimes tied to the broader case, and at sentencing, Susan, the woman at the center of it all, made her position clear. She described Ira as calculating and dangerous and someone who lacked remorse. Ira expressed regret, of course, and said that he was sorry for the damage caused, particularly to his children, and claimed that he would spend the rest of his life trying to make it right. Kelly and Ira both served time, about 4 years each. At one point, both of them described their relationship as real, even calling it love. Kelly especially believed that they would remain together after prison. When Kelly was released in 2021, she cut ties with Ira completely, and according to her attorney, she had learned during the legal process that Ira had attempted to shift the blame to her, portraying her as the mastermind behind the plot. Since then, Kelly has moved on. She started small businesses and reconnected with her children, who are now grown. And Ira's life took a different path. His marriage to Susan never formally ended, and their legal battles over assets continued for years. Despite his conviction, he maintained a high standard of living and eventually entered the landscaping business after losing his medical license.
Oh, plot twist.
Yeah. According to investigators, the business partner he worked with later accused Ira of taking control of financing and misappropriating large sums of money. The same pattern, money control conflict, continued to follow him. And just when it seemed like the story had finally reached its end, it did not. And in August 2022, just 1 year after getting out of prison, Ira Bernstein was back in a situation that felt disturbingly familiar. According to investigators, he approached someone new. This time, it was a landscaper he had gone into business with, and once again, the request was the same. He asked the landscaper if he knew anyone who could kill Susan.
Shut the fuck. Are you serious?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not the landscaper.
The man spent years in prison.
How dumb is he?
He obviously did not learn his lesson.
I heard this story and immediately loved it. Like, I can't. For the detectives who later reviewed the case, it was like shocking after everything that had happened, the investigation, the arrest, the prison sentence. Yeah, but this time things unfolded differently. The landscaper didn't go to the police right away. Instead, he saw an opportunity. If he could capture Ira on tape making these requests, he could use it as leverage to protect himself and possibly recover money he believed had been taken from him. He takes matters into his own hands. He buys recording equipment and began documenting their conversations. On those recordings, Ira appeared cautious but still engaged. He talked about the risks, the surveillance, about how it would be difficult to avoid getting caught, and even with those concerns, the conversations continued. At one point, he acknowledged that once Susan was taken, she wouldn't be coming back, and that was enough. A few days later, the landscaper confronted him, sending a message that he had recorded everything and was prepared to go to the police. Ira didn't respond, but his sister, Jacqueline Goldberg, a lawyer, reached out instead. She met with the landscaper at a restaurant, attempting to hear the recordings, but due to technical issues, she never actually listened to them. Even so, her involvement pulls her into the situation. The landscaper then changed course. Instead of going to law enforcement, he went directly to Susan. He told her everything. For Susan, he's like, literally, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
after another moment, she realized she could once again be in danger. She immediately contacted the Rockland County District Attorney's Office, which brought Detective Peggy back into the case. And from there, the investigation restarted. Because Ira had been tipped off about the recordings, he stops communicating, and that meant investigators couldn't run another undercover operation. There would be no staged meetings, no wired vehicles, no controlled setup like last time. Instead, they build their case the traditional way, through phone records, text messages, and whatever evidence they could gather. It took months. Eventually, Ira was charged again, this time with criminal solicitation, conspiracy, and tampering with evidence. His sister, the attorney, was also accused of trying to suppress the recordings in exchange for resolving a business dispute. Both pled not guilty. As the case developed, investigators acknowledged that this version was harder to prove. The recordings weren't as clear, and the evidence required more interpretation. Text messages showed discussions about the recordings and getting rid of them. Investigators believe this pointed to an effort to cover up what had been said. While both sides prepared for another trial, two major developments happened. First, after a 7-year legal battle, Ira and Susan were finally divorced. Ira remarries, this time to another woman he had been seeing. But before the case could go to trial, Ira makes another decision. He accepts a plea deal. And in the summer of 2025, he pleaded guilty to tampering with evidence. In exchange, the more serious charges, solicitation and conspiracy, were dropped. As part of the plea, he acknowledged that the evidence he tried to suppress was tied to the plan involving harm to Susan. In March 2026, Ira was sentenced. Susan addressed the court again, describing the lasting impact the case had on her and her children. She spoke about fear, instability, and the toll it had taken over the years. When it was Ira's turn, he denied ever intending to harm her. But Ira was sentenced to between 1.5 and 3 years in state prison. A protective order was obviously issued, prohibiting him from contacting Susan or their children for more than a decade. As for his sister, her case was resolved under a conditional dismissal. If she stayed out of trouble for a set period, the charges would be dropped. The landscaper and Ira later battled in civil court, but ultimately the landscaper regained control of his business. Susan filed separate lawsuits seeking damages for emotional distress, arguing the impact of the repeated plots against her life would never fully go away. Valid.
I feel like Susan needs to be put into like witness protection.
This woman can't catch a break. She's just constantly people are trying to kill her.
And I'm sure Ira's in prison just asking everyone if they know a hitman.
Yeah.
I love that he got out and then he immediately was like, hey, help me.
Yeah.
Learned nothing.
I learned nothing in my, 4 years in prison? What's wrong with you?
So much, apparently.
Yeah. Investigators believe Susan will always have to be cautious, always aware, and always looking over her shoulder. The man who first helped stop the original plot, Mark Kinsey, remains in her life and they stay in touch. And he's made it clear that if he had it to do over again, he would. Because in the end, the case wasn't about a plan that never happened. It was about how close it came to happening. And that is our story. I know it's a little different. No one died. Sorry. Not sorry, I guess. But I would argue this is a serial conspirator. He's always trying to kill people and he'll probably do it again. And he's probably going to get out of prison. So,
He tried. He's stupid, and he'll probably try again, like you said.
yeah. I love a stupid criminal. I'm a
Love a
lover.
stupid criminal. Yep.
That's our case. And we're going to hop into overtime.
Okay, first of all, we need to talk about the man that shot 8 of his babies.
I didn't know it was the dad. I had seen that it was a domestic
Yeah.
I mean, it's considered a mass shooting, isn't it?
Yeah. So it was 3 boys, 5 girls. They ranged from 3 years old to 11 years old. Baby daddy to 7 of the 8 kids that were killed.
Wow.
And then I think, I just want to say think on this. I know 2 women were shot as well. So I don't know if they were like baby mamas, wives, whatever.
I think one was like the mother of the children, and one was the aunt.
Okay. 3 years old to 11 years
Disturbing.
old is just absolutely nuts. When it first came out that it was a domestic disturbance, I was like, oh, somebody went and killed their whole family. On the note of shootings, today is 420, the anniversary of Columbine. So Columbine shooting happened on April 20th, 1999. Not happy anniversary to Columbine.
These are some really uplifting stories you have for us today.
Yes, and I have one more.
Great.
So this morning, I didn't get permission from my family to be talking about this, but I don't think it's going to be an issue because they weren't directly involved. But this morning, I'm visiting my parents in North Carolina with the girls. We were on our way out of the door. We were literally heading down the stairs to get in the car. And my mom's sister calls her and she goes, there's a shooting happening. I'm okay. I just wanted to let you know, like, where, that I'm okay and where we are. So what ended up happening is my aunt went to the doctor today. And while she was at the doctor's office, they went into lockdown this morning because right next to the doctor's office is an elementary school and a park. And there was a mass shooting happening at the park. 8 people got shot, 2 people died. The doctors and the nurses left the doctor's office and left all the patients there like in lockdown so that they could go treat people in the park.
Wow.
This is by an elementary school, by the way, and a very nice area, not like a bad area. Well, it turns out there was an arranged meetup between some youngins for a fight. Not youngins elementary school age. We don't know what age, but it's just, we know it's young people. They were arranged meeting today to like fight. And I guess the fight went bad. Police were called and then somebody started shooting.
Great. Love that.
So, and my aunt was in lockdown at the doctor's office next door the entire time. But I want to say they haven't released like names or ages, but when they said it was like juveniles, I assume that probably means like high schoolers.
Yeah, definitely under 18.
Yeah, but not elementary or middle, I would assume. Well, you never know. You never know these days. Okay, and then I have the other half thing I was gonna say is where the fuck is Nancy Guthrie? Why are we not talking about it anymore?
I don't know. It's like it just dropped off
It just stopped.
The media.
Like, I'm so confused. Like, there's no updates.
There's no updates.
She's obviously
Savannah
dead.
Guthrie is back. She's back. She's back on air, which she
She's
should
back,
be.
but she's back. But did you see the thing the other day where she was interviewing Anne Hathaway and halfway through the interview, out of nowhere after a commercial break, it's no longer her, it's Hoda. Like she had to leave the interview for some reason and people were like, what's going on? But like, you
break down all the time. I just don't.
All the time.
I mean, I would have to quit life. I'd have to quit my job. Like, damn, I don't know how she's doing it. That's
See, I don't know. I feel like
crazy.
the job's good to like keep your mind off it, but like obviously Nancy's dead. There's no possible way that she's alive at this point. But it makes me question the whole thing of like maybe now this she just got killed and dumped.
I agree because I mean, obviously we can't say for sure, but that's what we see a lot of times in true crime cases, unfortunately, when someone is killed and not found within like a reasonable amount of time, there usually have been it's because they're not mobile anymore.
But honestly, like where the hell is Nancy Guthrie? Why do we not have updates in the case? I want to know this stuff.
I guess we haven't heard anything because they haven't found shit.
No,
Still.
they haven't like, but chop chop. How are there not ring footage cameras from the neighborhood? Everybody
Right,
has
it's
rings.
insane.
Okay, that was it for me. Sorry, I was frustrated.
No, that's good. It's like we haven't talked about Nancy in a while because no one's talking about Nancy in a while.
Right.
What's going on?
It's really sad.
It's so sad. I can't imagine her family.
On a completely separate note, Kylie the other day, so I'm visiting my parents, like I just said. My mom and I have this thing where every night, once I put the girls to bed, we like to watch a documentary or one of our shows or something like that. And so I've been running out of shows and whatnot. And so I texted the girls and I specifically Kylie, no offense, Holly. It's just I knew Kylie had a list on her fucking phone. And I was like, yo, I need some shows or documentaries to watch because I only watch documentaries. And this bitch sent me like 30. Granted, I'd seen probably 20 of the 30, but the other ones that I haven't seen, quality.
You've
We
watched
need
them all?
like almost.
Damn.
We need to at Over My Dead Pod tell you guys we need to make a list. We're going to post it. We're going to do something on Instagram about it and share with you because I get asked a lot like at my gym or just some of the girls that I hang out with are like what documentaries do you guys like? Do you like this one? Do you like that one? And I'm like that's horrible. Don't even waste your time. This one's been done 50 times, but there's some good ones. There is one that I really want to watch and I just would like to let you know Kylie that it's no longer on the streaming service that you said it was. The rights have been taken away, but I really want to watch Goodnight Sugar Babe.
Oh, yes, yes.
It's no longer on Amazon. Its rights got revoked or something like that, and I can't find it.
Oh, great. Okay, I
So
do want to know which one is your favorite that I sent you that you've seen.
That's what I was
um,
gonna ask.
okay, well, I personally have seen the Alabama Solution before, but my mom hadn't seen it. And so the other night I watched it. I had made her watch it. And for those who don't know, it's on HBO. It's called The Alabama Solution. If you're into any criminal justice or like criminal justice system, reform, anything like that, I strongly urge you to go watch that. It's phenomenal. I literally, I think it has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's one of the best documentaries I've seen in a long time, but it's about reform.
Mhm.
One that I had seen already, but I love and want to recommend is also on HBO is The Cult of Mother God.
I think when I watched that, I had to pause it so many times just to like process what the hell was going on.
Phenomenal. First of all, I had never heard of it. So it's called Love is One, The Cult of Mother God. One, WON. And we're not going to talk about it because if you haven't watched it, you need to go watch it. It's so good. It's about something I've never heard of before. And like Kylie said, you literally are going to stop it multiple times and be like, what the fuck am I watching right now? It's phenomenal, especially the ending. Phenomenal. So that's probably my best, my favorite. Let's see which other ones I like. That's it from that list right now. What we are watching, we just started last night. Oh, another one I recommend is if you haven't watched on Netflix, Homicide New York or Homicide LA, not the scripted shows, but the documentaries. Those are really good. And then there's one more that came out recently. Oh, has nothing to do with crime. But you know what I just watched that came out? Of course, I'm obsessed. The new Noah Khan documentary.
Oh my gosh, I walked in and Luke's dad was watching that the other night at their house.
Phenomenal. I am probably one of the biggest Noah Khan fans. Absolutely insane, great documentary, and was a lot about mental health. And you know how I am on that subject. So That's a good one if you are or are not a fan.
You know how I am on that subject? I need it right now. Bad.
And when Holly says she needs it, she means she needs mental health help.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
That's what I need. I
Yeah.
am not being funny. I'm not being facetious. I'm not even being funny, guys. They know it's been a hard week for me.
Yeah.
Even recording this was hard. So not, I mean, I'm fine, but
Yes, she's fine. It's just,
life has been lifing.
Kylie, what did you text us the other day about Etsy witches?
We are going to hire an Etsy witch. We're going to have the three of us because we have obviously been cursed and someone's fucking
Yeah.
with our voodoo dolls or something.
2026 has not been it.
Yeah, it's just been the past month. Someone out there, you're doing something. I don't know who it is. I have suspicions. But
I do
okay,
too. I have
yeah,
major suspicions. For the
same.
rest of my life, I will have the same suspicion.
Same.
No.
Y'all, my favorite on Kylie's list was the yogurt shop murders. I have an interest in that case, so I'm like, I really liked that one. But I think the listeners, if you've made it this far, thank you, first of all. Second of all, comment in tell us your favorite documentary. It doesn't have to be Netflix. What's your favorite true crime documentary? It can be HBO, Netflix, Amazon, whatever. I promise you, we will watch it
Yeah,
because
we
we're addicted.
1,000%.
So drop your comments. We'll watch it. Maybe
Do
maybe
not
next.
send me some John Benet Ramsey shit though, okay? Been there, done that. There's too many. I don't want to see it.
Yeah, yeah.
Unless it was the kidnapping and murder itself, like don't send me
Yeah,
shit.
a link to
Allegedly.
a link to who it is that you can send that. Yes. Okay. We'll probably watch it. So recommend it to us.
Yep.
Blah, blah, blah. As usual, please like, subscribe, set yourself up for notifications when we drop because we do this all for funsies and we're trying to build our base a little bit. So help us out if you don't care. If you like it, send it to your friends, your family that like true crime, all the things. But with that, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Over My Dead Pod. And we will catch you next week for another case. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.